Let's see. Okay, so we are live.
Oh, great. Perfect. So then I start. I should. We don't do any dramaturgical pause. Welcome. So this is Hot Topics. This is the second session of Hot Topics under the frame of institutionalization of the artist. And Hot Topics, it is a segment of the wider program Hot Room for Audiences, which is organized and led by Steam Room. Some of them are, or all of them are here, like Jana and Dario and myself. And we have invited Biljana and Javi for this second session. You will learn about every and each of them through the sessions. We will not go through it, or check the links. Everybody's name information are inside down there, and also you could figure out a little bit more for the other programs. Only to say that this program of Hot Room for Audiences in a little wider context, it is a program directed towards looking for formats for placing discursive practices within the field of choreography and dance, and trying to figure out the different format and relation between the artist, artistic work, and audience. And it's a little bit more, let's say, in a way, trying, testing, practicing, experimenting, and something in between with different formats. And I would say more or less only to inform, that soon it is coming up a website, and which is going to be called Imaginative Choreographic Center. And there you will be following, and you will find as an archive all sessions that we have been initiating and doing around processes of institutionalization or imaginative institutions and stuff like. Okay, I think that's more or less very summed up in order to not take time from the session, because I would like to close this thing. Also, just to say that these Hot Topics, it is more imaginative space where we will be practicing conversation around topic issues, concerns, or interests around the choreography and dance field. And it is more imagined as a conversation format, so therefore you will not experience neither moderation, neither any structural, let's say, formats, but it's going to be kind of choreography in making rather than done choreography. So yeah, I would like maybe like this to open the whole session and pass on the ball further and close the officiality of it. Then we go in the unofficial part.
Yeah, so maybe I can continue. To start, I think it would be nice, or I would like to invite you to do a dreaming practice together. So I will explain it. I mean, we know about what it is, but I will explain it so whoever is watching can follow. This dreaming practice consists on each of us will have 5 minutes. Nobody will interrupt this person. And during these 5 minutes, you will be able to talk, think, express whatever comes in your mind in relation to the topic we are talking today, institutionalization of the artist. And this dreaming is also a way of vomiting, let's say, like whatever is in your mind. It doesn't need to be, it can be necessary stuff that you want to speak, unnecessary stuff. It can be thoughts that you really don't stand by, like it can be wanderings also. So it's some type of opening, let's say, the conversation, also to get to know what is our background in relation to the topic, and to just easing up this territory we are going to inhabit right now. So whoever wants to start can start. Maybe, yeah, I will just mute myself and then we just go for it. No need to, I will not point somebody, okay, can you or not? So whoever feels motivated to do it can start.
Just did we said that I think usually we would frame this in a time. So do we have?
Yes, 5 minutes. I will be, yeah,
Maximum.
sorry, maximum. I will be timing. So if somebody goes over, I might be like, hey, like maybe you should find an end.
And also a little bit to explain that we propose this type of format usually because we work with collective authorship, and this is one of the tools to bring certain material piles so we can, from where we can all start having the conversations.
So, who wants to dream a little in the first time? Well, if you want, I start. So hello, and thank you very much for this invitation. Hi from the Canary Islands. We are in the middle of the Atlantic. And well, to begin, I think that when I received this invitation to talk or to have this conversation about the institutionalization of the artist, it sounds me to some kind of, I don't know, of punishment or to some kind of abduction. Is like the institutionalization of the artist. It's like something like that takes you because you don't want to be there, or you have a conflict with this. And in some moment of your life, perhaps, I'm dreaming. The institution comes from I don't know where and takes you and puts you to a, I don't know, a black hole, or puts you into a place that you really don't want to be, but at the same time you want to be there. So it sounds me to this kind of, I don't know, this kind of contradiction between what does mean, what does the institutionalization of the artist means, no? What we want to talk about, because I don't know, you know that I'm dealing with the administrations, and I put together the institution with the administration. I'm dealing with the administration from 2007 with different levels of the administration and the institution. And obviously it's always some hard relation. It's always about power. It's always about hierarchy. It's always about macro politics and micro politics. It's always about the territory and the position of the artist in relation to the institution. And personally, my election has been always like be like within the institution, like in the middle of some strange place between the territory and the institution, like be inside and outside the institution, like in some flexible movement, no, between these places. Some people think that I work for the institution, and other people think that I don't work with the institution. I don't know if I'm working in or out the institution. And well, the experience, at least in this territory, in the Canary Islands, is that usually it happens in the same way. When you start to work with the institution or within the institution, you have some kind of danger to fall down into the institution and forget all that discourses that have to be with the ethics, for example, with the care, for example, with the horizontal relationships, for example. And it's like if someone, that's why I say that it is like if someone from other planet abducts you. I don't know in English, it's the abduction, no? And suddenly your body changes, your mind changes, and these things that you always were like defending hardly falls into I don't know where, no, in a black hole. I'm trying from all these years to find ways of lubricate this relation with the institution, how to carry out or how to develop some fluid practices in relation with the institution, like a dissident practice, like a way of be critical into the institution without destroying it. It's like, okay, we can do several things with the institution. We can destroy the institution. We can running away and living apart of the institution, and we can make some dissidents or create some dissident practices in relation, in collaboration, within the institution. No? I think this is the hardest way of being in relation, but at the same time, the how you say it, I'm going to invent some words in English because my English, you know, is not so good. The more practical, I don't know, the more ethical way of being in relation with the institution. No, it's like being to proposing some dissident practices into the institution, no? Without being the institution yourself, no? Because it sounds like something like losing something of yourself or losing your critical power, no? So I would like to dream in another way of be in relation with the institution. I would like to dream about new ways of be critical, to be part of a bigger group that take the decisions about how these relations works between the institution and the artists. More flexible practices or more flexible ways of dealing with the institution, of be the institution. And I don't know, help me to imagine too these new forms, these new ways of lubricate the institution, because at the end, in the top of the institution, always there is a white man, no? A local white man taking decisions and appropriating of some contemporary discourse. But at the end, the fact is that the results and the relation are the same that ever. Some vertical and hierarchy, etc.
Yeah. Sorry to cut in, Javi, like you already hit 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, so I can go. I can dream then. I will set the time for myself. You hear me, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, dream. So in my utopical world, or when I dream about institution or institutionalization of the artist, I take this word as I say before in the other hot topics, like I take institutions somehow as a safe place or a home or like a system that supports me. And it's kind of like, I mean, it doesn't make so much sense to the reality nowadays, but I'd like to dream and to think about it in that way, like institution and processes of institutionalization as maybe it's not safety, but as a system I can rely on, let's say. So this is, of course, really different on the relation I have with institutions in my daily basis and in my work. Mainly because I think I have never encountered an institution that is that I feel it close to me, or I feel that I can that I can rely on it, or it is institution having always like an external agent to my practice and to my work, let's say, or something I need to fight on. And it's kind of yeah, like funny, like that we as artists, or me as artists, like we end up in the position of rivals and like enemies of the institution, when we are actually specifically in the institution that deal with the field we work with, like we are actually the means for this institution to exist. So it's like this gap in between of how to access the institution, how to communicate with it, how to start a dialogue, and it has been always really yeah, challenging or impossible, and it's only possible when it's done through a collective gathering, or like it's the freelance alternative field, the ones who manage together to make some changes to institutions. So like me as an individual, I never had that chance to count with it as yeah, as part of my work. Let's say it's always like I face a wall. And like maybe like one of the most simple examples of how of this wall I'm talking about, like I don't know, the whole policy of applications, calls, and so on, is like I am forced to meet certain requirements that like mostly all of the time they are not related at all to my work. So I need to fix and understand my work first, and then I need to put a filter in order to make this work happen. So it's like many layers I start building that do not allow my work to be flowly done, let's say. So it's always a struggle. Yeah, so I was thinking a lot these videos about like especially with COVID pandemic, and about in like the international field, and what does it mean to be national, what does it mean to be based somewhere, and I don't know, like different institutions are like they work with your identity in different directions, like according to your nationality, or according to where have you been working mainly, or according to status, like where did you study or something like this. And I'm like, especially like in my case, because I work a lot between many different localities, in cases like COVID or emergency cases, like I do not meet any of those directions. Like I do not meet one of them 100%, because I am in between. So then it's just like I'm without a safety net, let's say. I am like helpless. So when I dream about institutionalization of the artist, I dream of having a collective system that is not solid, that is fluid, that is also, as Javi say, also dealing with care and dealing with micro politics, and is dealing with continuously morphing and trying to understand how the institution can survive, because it's also like this process of institutionalization. I remember Ida Daniel said before in the other hot topics we had, like she was wondering a lot about when an institution should die, or when is the end of this institution. So like, and I was thinking like, yeah, like maybe we need to start thinking how institutions can survive, rather than like to invest in the process of survival, let's say, or to invest in the process of keeping something alive, because it's not just alive forever. It's not a statue. So it's like, how can we keep this thing that is boiling? How can we keep it going? And I need to check the time. 5:34. I'm done.
I could start, continue. Okay, yesterday when I was thinking about tonight's meeting, and I had kind of, I don't know, this kind of pre-dreaming session with myself, and to try to think about this institutionalization of the artist and what does it mean. And do we want to have it in the life of artists, or we want to embrace what stays maybe behind of this kind of terminology, or what we acclaim for as an artist? Because mostly I'm speaking from the position of the artist, that also it's dealing quite a lot with administrative work, with bureaucratic work, and also it's like so much work of that basically it's like it's taking more of the space and time for that. Maybe it's better or more like more curious for me to invest in artistic practices, artistic work and processes in that direction. So I was thinking again, oh my God, I have so much application work that it's like, and also it's not only that you have that work, but it's also this invisible work of the freelance artist, that it's not really like kind of staying in shadow, this labor of us that we are doing. And maybe this institutionalization of the artists also needs to open all the layers of our labor that we do, and to be kind of maybe recognized. So for me, this also it's like kind of step of this institutionalization of the artist. But the same moment, I also have this confrontation with this terminology and connecting with the structure of institution, that it's because I don't know, art is something fragile, it's something alive, it's something morphing, and then we want to place it in some structure that we like with the like in to institute this fragile territory, that it's beautiful. But maybe also we need to speak of kind of imaginative institutionalization of the artist, or what is the like what is this institution that we want to embrace kind of. And also I was thinking also about Dario, what you said also around this way you based, way you position, and that's so how much this is connected also with nationalizing the art, and especially in dance and choreography, which doesn't really connect with dance and choreography, because this is like one fluid notion, like movement that is going on, and it's like totally not working for me, like to be nationalized. So this is also something that with I don't know, we are speaking around a lot with Steam Room, like how this could like dance and choreography exist, and to be even more I don't know denationalized, that this is the way how also this sphere will develop, that will grow in this process of development for the dancing choreography. Because I really don't believe like in like developing the localities only, that will develop the art itself. I don't know. So in that direction I was thinking, and I was I don't know, dreaming around that, like what could be this institution to institutionalize the artist work, and but also like to be like, especially now I'm thinking for the context of Bulgaria that I come from. So even we don't have like this status of the artist, we are still fighting for that. And the institution, we are like people are having dialogues with the institution, but the institution still it's in the position that it's not something as, they don't recognize it as something as necessity for the scene. So I don't know, I think also this relation with institution is very nice to think about, which are these new ways like to connect with them, and what are the formats through which we can connect with them, and to I don't know, to make this connection alive, this relation alive. Yeah.
That's 5 minutes.
So yeah, I'll stop here. Mm.
Shall I go? It's between you and me, Ed.
How do you feel?
Yeah, okay. I feel that I should go. Okay, there is actually I never thought before, because I wanted to empty my mind about anything which is related with the term and the notion of institution in culture and art, because I'm very much busy with it practically, but also thinking in the past, let's say, years. And however, I have to introduce my ambiguous situation, like in relation with what is that. On the first side is this imaginative horizon in front of me, where I see this imaginative, fantastic institution, for example. Or on the other side, living and working in a certain rooted context, which doesn't need to be here and there, but it's, how to say, in a specific socio-political, cultural, and economical environment, which very much somehow is affecting what is the institution. So there are these, how to say, totally ambiguous situation and relations. One is love and one is even a struggle, very much. And the one that I love and I imagine, the horizon, is always helping this struggle to be easier, let's say. However, it's more or less helping in the sense of reimagining the institution all the time. So it's never, this imagination should never end. So that's why it's in its potentiality. So it's whenever you hit something, you have to reimagine. And then it's always, then your imagination is always rooted within certain tactics or, I don't know, strategies of how you act. And this is depending on the context in which you are. Some tactics in some contexts are related with survival, some are with activistic struggles, some are with many different things. But however, I wanted to say that firstly, this institutionalization of the artists, I think it's impossible and it shouldn't happen ever. You can institutionalize certain values, you can institutionalize certain issues and stuff around certain art, but never the artist. I think the artist itself as a figure should always be never institutionalized. In that sense, I think on this artist as a choreographer, dancer, performer, as an artist that it's not part of the corps de ballet or some philharmonic or elsewhere, because it's a different type of institution. So if I root myself into the institution, and I have some notes out of you, it's first of all, it's that there are two things that I would like to discuss maybe or propose. This is first is the level of how we imagine it. It's always rooted into something which is a certain infrastructural context. And this for me, it's related also with something which is how it affects this context, which means, is it warm? Is it nice? Is it friendly? Is it built on collectiveness? Is it built on certain protocols, which makes me feel better inside? Or is it very rigid, strict, solvable, helpful, I don't know, stable even, you know? Because if it's this warm, flexible, I don't know, fluid, that it's never so stable in itself, you know, but it's stable in our dependence of us as a collective, let's say, or people coming together. And then for me, it's this institution of interdependence where we can depend on each other in our vulnerability, understanding, missing, being or not being together. And then it can be these rhizomatic, I would say, institutions that can have many entries in and out. which means it can happen in this way, then it can happen in another way, it can change the positions, then it can introduce someone else, that someone can go, and etc., etc. So that institution, let's say, be practical. It can be just an infrastructure, it's not a just, it's never just. It's an infrastructure, it's a kind of an environment in which artists can do things as they need to do them, for example. So then it's a support, it's an arbor, you know, but not a vertical, but kind of rooted in all these many different ways. So this is how I imagine it, you know. And then it can be also understood, institution, as an art form. If you understand it as an art form, for example, I don't know, as an art form, as also you have this kind of artistic work where you're existing as a space which is always filled with new things and new ideas. And then as an art form, practically institutes something else, which means it has a different relation with the environment rather than being, I don't know, being an infrastructure that it's built under certain regimes and, I don't know, laws, etc., etc. So this is imaginative part, which I always say it's kind of filling me with kind of enthusiasm to go forward. But then this is the other part of institution as a context of power. And I think that what we need to do in our imagining and reimagining is kind of to make a balance, if this is possible. And try always to balance the position between what we speculate and what it's possible somewhere. So we can kind of like interdepend with our, I don't know, dreamings at least, and the context in which we are living. Understand that I have to finish, yeah?
Yes, yes.
Well, trying to institutionalize this conversation with the rule system. Okay, then I would, it's only me left. I play here 5 minutes and then, yes, what, I don't know now also while I hear you, but also making comparison of before where I end up and how I got busy with all of these things. I want to speak a bit more, maybe, and vomit more things from the side of observing it through choreographic perspective, or this is how I'm super, like, let's say, more busy and more using that vocabulary. And I wanted first to say that, like, I very much refer in all my practices to the very kind of beginnings of the establishment of the terminology of choreography, and how to say, that was almost used for war purposes and strategic moves, where it was painted specifically in an A for the steps and who goes where and how the movement is being spread in specific A4 format. And for me, observing, like, speaking about what I'm trying to make is a parallel where I go towards is that speaking about institution have operates very much in its own practice, it's bureaucracy. The language, it's very much bureaucracy and certain law, and not certain, the law system. The law system it's very much a choreographic structure, establishing the rule system where you can go, where you cannot go, how do you move, how do you experience, how does a specific other, like, so-called performance audience in that moment can experience certain performance, and vice versa. So it is a certain, let's say, in a way, I like to think poetically as a certain expanded notion of choreography and more complex. And therefore, my statement would be that institution and processes of institutionalization very, very, very much have necessity of choreographers or choreography around or being observed through it. when we speak about movement in space and time and certain notion of like connected to certain experiencing or sensing certain experiences and procedures. And then somehow institution, I cannot speaking from the side of an experience on the daily basis, even like all institutions that I have passed through, like health institution, educational, and all these bureaucratical ones that they need to affirm my existence bureaucratically, because this is this is what the institution says. Now you are alive and now you exist here. Now you can move here and there. It's kind of a medium of the law or expansion of the law system. And in one moment I caught myself that from not kind of thinking it or conceptualizing it so much or structuring it, I end up myself being kind of asked from or pushed if I would live as an artist in a couple of places that I need to bureaucratically exist there. So therefore, now in this moment, I exist in 4 countries bureaucratically. And I start experiencing that by existing in 4 countries bureaucratically simultaneously, I totally shifted or created a holographic existence of myself, which is constantly being present there. And it's a certain, for me, very much poetic step towards processes of institutionalization of me as an artist, of the artist format, let's say. And why here, for example, later I would like to enter in discussions and topics, and I have very much curiosity to figure out what would be the understanding of institution maybe from each of you, or that we open a bit the topic, because in my perception of it, it's rather I would be more interested to speak of the institution and it's all possible format. So if we speak about institutionalization, I would rather speak of the institutionalization of the artist rather than the art, or rather than the artistic work or art form or artistic value. Even though that's problematic, and I'm kind of aware, but in the respect of the time, I would like to continue dreaming for some other stuff, then just as a provocation for further. What I'm also, that's all. Tiring.
We are not a rigid institution, so you can go on if you need it.
Exactly.
My nice hologram.
Exactly.
But this is it. We're like totally adapting everything, which
Absolutely. It's so
again.
crazy. It's so crazy. It's so crazy.
No, but
Because
that's the
this
thing.
is deregulation of
This is the
regulation.
regulation
and
of
again,
time.
regulation of deregulation.
Our own bureaucracy. Yeah, absolutely.
Totally.
I like a lot to listen to you. If you don't mind, I continue. I'll go on.
Go.
I like a lot to listen to you, especially these terms of this thing that institution. The institution is an art form. Okay, I agree absolutely that, and that we need choreographers in the institution. I agree absolutely with that. No? I think that a way of imagining new, like a dreaming model or way of understanding the institution is like starting to think in these terms. That's why I wrote in the chat something like, why we artists have to be institutionalized? Why don't we change the question, and the question becomes in the artistation of the institution? No, something like that. Because I think that what we need is to walk on this way. It's like institutions, like they are not good for us in a simple way. No, we can be sure we cannot be protected by them. No? So how could we build a new way of understanding the institution in this more flexible, lubricated, less bureaucratized, less nationalized institution? And I think that we have to push to get the institution becomes some kind of big dramaturgy, as well as you like the choreography. You know that I like a lot dramaturgy, and you know that I was a therapist, no? A systemic therapist, so I cannot without thinking about the relations. And when we talk about power and we talk about the hierarchy, it's like, why can't we push to try that the institution becomes some kind of multi-layer dispositive with different people from the art, nor from the legal or the advocacy or the management, not from the arts. Like in Norway, for example, that you know that they don't have an art ministry, that they are the artists are who manage the money in the culture, for example, no? in a totally different way of the countries of the south of Europe. But it's like in this relation between speculation and the possibility, no? Why couldn't we speculate in some kind of common force to push to the institutions to be like this, like yeah, more flexible, like to smooth the institution, no? I imagine like a pink institution with a soundtrack, when you know, something like this, like without specific goals, like with improbable connections, with several disciplines working at the same time, with an artistical and dramaturgical team that directs or manage the institution, not only one person without project. That is what we see every day here in Spain, no? One person with a name and a surname without a project, without a team. It's like, okay, yes, I have to fight against this kind of institution because I don't feel represented. I don't feel comfortable within this institution. I want to break these kind of rules. I want to imagine some new bureaucracies. I want to imagine some new forms, no, application forms. I want to imagine some new meeting spaces and more open in the spaces, more permeable spaces between because I don't know if art exists, but artists do. So it's like how to put the artist in the institution, not to be institutionalizing, but to artist the institution. I'm losing my English, but I think that you understand what I say.
Yeah, totally.
But this decision doesn't depend of us. This decision depends of the politicians always. So
no, but of course, it depends where it is. First of all, if we talk about institution, and I agree, should be a home. This is kind of because home means something else and should be felt as home. This is the one thing. But also how you build house and home, it's not built by, you are the one who is going to live there, so you have to accommodate it. So then, therefore, the artists should be the ones which are dealing or choreographing or making the institution itself. But what I wanted to say, especially like in this context that you were saying, like to be permeable and here and there, and then with the Nomad Dance Academy, we started thinking, because we do for so long now, I don't know how many years, 15 probably, different things around in ex-Yugoslavia plus Bulgaria. And this is something that for me, it's an institution in itself, but decentralized institution without a center. And this is what I mean when I think about rhizomatic, So there is no genealogy in that order. There is no verticality in that order. There is the possibility for everyone to enter if they want, but also there are roles. That doesn't mean it's anarchy, but there is a set of a system in which you can create something, and that system can build itself if you are the one who is building it or making it or choreographing it, and etc. So what I think is that, because this kind of like decentralized position are enabling differences to happen, which means it's not monolithic. It's something that can be very much dispersive and therefore allow differences to happen, let's say, you know. So that's why I think it's like, if I think in Macedonia to be done, North Macedonia now, to be done some kind of a dance institution, probably I wouldn't even think about an institution as like with a company, with artists. When we were making Kino Kultura, we were thinking about space in which, of course, there will be facilitation, but people should come together. But in order to make people come together, you need kind of a system and infrastructural stability, let's say. So this is something what we need from politicians. I don't need anything else from them, because we know as a community what kind of system we want, what kind of, I don't know, notions should be discussed, what kind of like relations should be established, what kind of collectivity should be, I don't know, addressed. But the politics and policies do not understand this type of collective actions. And this is, I think, not possible, as you're suggesting, with the law as a choreography. It's very strict thing, you know, you cannot communicate collectiveness there. They see you as an individual, many individuals, you know. It's never a collective understood in that sense, because the system of law, but also the capitalistic system and the system in which labor exists and it's related and addressed, it's only with individualization of an artist, of an art system, and that means fragmentation, dispersity and stuff like that. And I think the institution as we imagine, it's only possible in its collective action, let's say.
Yeah, I would jump in here. For example, because when I refer to those elements or to those observation or perspective of observing it as a choreographic mechanism or procedure, I do involve, and with all paradoxicity, I do involve the processes of this individualization of the system, understanding the how to say, the approach of individualization of the practices of people, humans, or whatever artists. And why in that line of talking, this is why I said that, like, I would rather think of institutionalization of the artists, because if we would articulate and frame imaginative institutionalization or realistic one, or I will use now as an example, as a specific study case, the situation in Bulgaria that I got very, very kind of, from there it come all procedures for institutionalization. It's around the COVID situation, the scenes start gathering and activating, and without any bureaucratic or protocol procedures, it starts we know how it goes with 1,000 people in a Facebook group, and it activates certain, let's say, dynamics around helping funds and using the European funds and stuff. And the so-called representative group, which never wanted to institutionalize itself, but always kind of was the one who kind of found the time, effort, and interest to push forward with all procedure. They figure out that the only thing important that you need to be fight for in this moment, and the only thing we can get for, and it's the infrastructure. Infrastructure excluding status of artist, excluding recognizing artists and artistic practices. Infrastructure which it initiated this structural fund, which would recognize kind of 1 year type of 1 year projects, which would be mostly supporting the let's say different organizations and different legal bodies that have experience. And then for me, it became very crucial that in even rising voices, even argumenting on the processes of like, hey, let's include the status of the artist. Let's include also understand, like advocating and understanding, like even complexifying the practices, the procedures, the freelance lifestyle, like bureaucratically speaking, complexifying it for the system in order to start reading it, recognizing it, because of course, being in 4 different countries, you see 4 different processes or formats of institutions. And then you do see that bureaucracy and solving issues in a bureaucratical sense and like terminology and how to say formulations in an individual level for a certain individual can bring potentiality for collective functioning, for collective like collective support structure, even though it's on a very individual respectful level. So I don't speak for the like, yeah, I don't relate to like conceptually speaking of line of individualism, but I speak of on pragmatic level that seeing, for example, Sweden in that sense. However, it has its own also complexity in things, but in terms of bureaucracy, due to certain economical standard, I do not need to know, or it does recognize to me everything is, let's say, digitally. And even when you go digitally, you know that the bureaucracy into the level to what they're, how to say, worked out or complexified, to that level can recognize a complexity of individual. So if I would in Sweden start filling up a document,
just to say that I was against this, just to say it's good to be in this census.
Yeah.
But anyhow.
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying, that I'm saying as a certain contra, let's say, or another paradoxical line, because for me, I have a certain like possible dreaming and wish that instead of us taking institution and institutionalization, process of institutionalization based only on base practices until now, and with the appearance of technology and all different hyperness that comes with as a dynamic, and it's according to economics, some countries' institution can kind of take it as a certain tool or not, and can help to the procedure or not, cannot help to the procedure of understanding institution. And us expanding the notion of what institution can be and how far it can go. Why? Because I am dreaming to the level of that if I experiencing being institutionalized can communicate with another institution, maybe that's the only format where we can construct certain process of collectiveness, us with the representative institutions of whatever state of the state. But thinking that we could, for me, it becomes more and more like unattractive and impossible, following the line of, let's say, what I said, choreographic approach, thinking that with an institution, we could start creating a dialogue and start creating certain sense of collectivity. So it could disrupt this vertical and abusement of power behind certain institutional structure. I mean, abusement of power, it will always be in different form. It just at least that we have certain, how to say, collective format, or more or less, let's say, flat hierarchy with its bumpiness. I have a feeling that it's the institutionalization and institutionalizing of the artists. It's one kind of way that I would dream of, but that institutionalization, it needs quite of complexification in order that one could be recognized. Because one speaking, the process that I said that I'm doing in 4 different countries, it's exactly that what I'm doing. I'm trying to complexify and multiply and maximize my existence, to put it on hyper level on bureaucratical sense, so that in one moment, none of the countries telling me you are legal or illegal to be resident, to have residence permit in 4 countries. Nobody can say no, but there is no even law for no. There is no law for saying it no. But everybody would prefer, but they still recognize it bureaucratically. And in that sense, how to say, I see.
But Tasha,
certain...
don't you think, I have to stop you here because somehow I lost you. Do you think that this kind of what you're saying, I mean, I'm trying to focus on what you're saying. Don't you think that this kind of institution, it's called residency or something, what you're talking about? Because I'm not understanding in which sense you're talking about this institutionalization of the artists, you know, and these different countries and different laws and individualization. Maybe just if you can
yes, this
go
is at the
step
beginning
forward, because we have institutions and institutions and institutions and institutions. One in our, let's say, performing arts or performance world, but also visual and this and that, also deal with this mobility and different, I don't know, context relations and stuff like that. And the capitalism, especially the capitalism, invented residency system, which supports the artist without the context, let's say, in one way, because this is something else. And what I'm saying is that also institution is related with a certain surrounding and the context, but it can go out of it through its decentralization, which is kind of a way of relation through rhizomatics. But what you are suggesting, as I say, as I understand, is this, or is it something else? This is, I'm not.
I think it's a little bit something else. Because in two words, what I'm suggesting through an example that, for example, I do a project. I said at the beginning, institutionalization or institutions in processes of institutionalization, for me, it's very much connected to bureaucratically existing and to what places, to what context, to what situation. And I'm speaking about me, for example, in artistic field, in choreography applying in Macedonia, in Bulgaria, in Sweden and Spain, and I am putting it. In Macedonia, I am co-produced by Alexander Georgiev from Bulgaria, Alexander Georgiev because I have like these kind of legal bodies in those places. So Alexander Georgiev becomes a hyper thing, a hyper, how to say, hyper body there.
It's a decentralized body that lives in a different place. Okay, this I understand.
So in that sense, for me, the processes of institutionalization are very much certain bureaucratical game, like let's say game structures. In sense that's why I wanted maybe to ask, maybe that's for me, my perception of institution and institutionalization, since I'm escaping all other segments, because this is where I found escape, or this is where I find a tricky moment, because to go and to speak about solidarity, I'm now even freaked out about those all kind of togetherness, solidarity, and all of these things. It's kind of still very like kind of black hole for me. There, I don't have even capacity to dream how I could dream togetherness with an institution from the place where I am, and that's maybe why my escape and what I propose, it's from the side of bureaucratical practices and solutions.
But it's a choice, you know.
I don't know if I've understood everything, but I ask you, Alexander, it could be some kind of hacker practice. What you are doing is like taking the rules of the institution, no, the bureaucratic rules of the institution. I'm going to hack, to hack these rules. I'm going to force them to be in some kind of trouble. That probably it's this practice, this game from your part, is forcing them to take some new decisions. Is it okay if I understood what you are saying? It's like a proposal to dream another kind of institution, or to build another kind of institution would be to hacking the institution through its own practices or its own bureaucracy and rules or games, etc.
That's what I meant. If this is their practice, then I need to hack the practice. If this is the language, then I need to start speaking that language in order to kind of communicate. And I'm wondering, this is what I was saying, that is the only way how I can enter, because otherwise, how we could communicate, either they need to start, because there are specific figures behind all of that, they need to start speaking the language, the artistic language, or like, where is the whole mediation of conversation? And
but I think the institution should be in between. You know, the thing is that why I'm having a trouble with all this, what you're now saying, is that I think you are not dealing with the institution, but you are dealing with the systems, institutional system, and not with the institutions of art and culture. And this is totally different, you know. System of the institutions of art and culture should be the one that should reform itself through your practice, you know. And this is how we should hack laws, this and that and everything. At this moment, there is this huge thing in Macedonia going, because there is these institutions what are happening. They're doing this systematization of the work positions. And you know, it's like about you, how you gonna ask for resystematization, meaning from inside you can change it. So it's very difficult thing actually, because it's also related with many, you know, kind of laws, bylaws, this and that. But I think it's the only, not the only, but it is one of the possibilities that from inside, as for example, in visual arts is this institutional critique, there were positions of curators, for example, there, which started questioning, critically, you know, thinking, understanding, repositioning what the meaning of the museum, for example, is. And this is up to the artist, what I think should do with the institutions of art and culture in a different way. The problem is that we, for example, don't have this kind of a choreographic institution. So we cannot change it. We have to think, to imagine it, and to make it, and to then to fake it, you know, into the system.
I think also, like, I don't know, as I understood you, because I kind of share a little bit the same working dynamics. I think this hacking the system and later on the institutions, like this is coming also out of necessity. So like, and it's not necessarily like imagining another way of institutionalize or imagining another way of institution, but it's rather like mirroring what is how they function, as also Javi resumed, how like mirroring this functioning and just like accelerate it and like, okay, now I hack it. But then it's also like, okay, maybe through this first approach of, or like this first type of entering, then like another type of another type of structures can appear. And I speak now about the imaginative choreographic center that we are dealing with and this project as yeah, I'm just wondering like how like what practically can we do in our specific context as artists in like to change this institution. Are we like, when we talk about like permeability and like entering somewhere and like kind of a bit of like this spy situation and like not conquering, but like, yeah, like now this home is ours, let's build it now from the beginning. Like how much practically this is actually possible. Also, what you spoke, Vijana, before about like dealing with the speculation, imagination, and actual reality, like how we can keep this balance to actually make something tangible. So I'm thinking like, okay, like is it an approach of creating something really new and kind of I don't know, have this imaginative structure that will then like cheat the existing the existing ones the already solid ones. Is it the process of institutionalization, the one at least me I'm dreaming of? Is it something that like need to be externally created and then deal with what it is now, or are we actually going to the building, like, because that's also not my work, you know, like I'm not sure if I want to deal with that type of yeah, like it's a lot of investment. I want to do another type of work that is artistic, you know, so it's like how from my position I can actually create the conditions without losing sense and without becoming a cultural worker, because I am not one, let's say, like I am in certain ways but not really. So it's just and also one random thought, when Villana, you were mentioning about like how hard is to for state or politicians to see collectiveness, and it's rather like a group of individuals. I also think it's really necessary from the artist side, from the art, to make visible the value, let's say, or the importance of processes and the importance of researches rather than product, because I think there's also a lot of correlation between individual and product. Like this is me, I'm Dario, I'm a dancer, and this is what I will give you. So I mean, like, it's just capital. So like, how can we like think collectively and think in processes rather than like constituted form, and that's it. Yeah, I don't know.
I want to tell you an example. I think that, I don't know if you know it. I don't know if you know to Matías Taporta and Begoña Cuquejo from Spain, that they are two dancers and choreographers. And they manage this festival called, I don't remember the name, Corpo a Terra in Galicia, okay? They founded like 4 years ago an association called, I'm gonna read it because I use the Google Translator, the Association of People Affected by the Homogenization of the Current Intangible Cultural Heritage. They worked with a law firm, with some advocates, and they, I don't know in English, interpusieron a legal demand against the state in an artistical approach, using like Ace said, no, using this bureaucratical language, this mechanism to demand to the state, to the ministry, no? Because the abandon of this immaterial heritage, no, cultural heritage. This is a way of hacking the institution, of course. The other way, I think, is what at the end I think that I'm doing from the beginning. No, it's like to be some kind of how do you say? I don't know in English.
Say it in Spanish.
How is it in Spanish?
This person that go into a system and infiltrate, no? Some kind of spy, some kind of infiltrate that uses the well, the common ways, no, the bureaucratical ways, to disarm or to deactivate or to generate some dissident practices within the institution. And I think that this is a way, that's a way that I think that this is the way that at the end I better know, no? It's how to be in these power places, no? You know that from 2 years ago, I am, it's very funny for me, but I am the president of the Spanish Federation of Dance, no? The Spanish Dance Federation. And it's so crazy because I'm not a dancer. I'm not a dancer. No? I dance in the stage, but I'm not a dancer. So, and I remember that when this institution proposed me to be the president, no, of this federation, I thought, okay, I don't know what I'm gonna do in these 3 years, but probably I will introduce some new words, some new narratives, some new discourses in the hyper hyper institutionalized language, no? And that's what I'm doing. That's what when I go to the ministry, when I go to the National Institute of Performing Arts, in my mouth appear some words that they have never heard before, they have never listened before. And I think, okay, I'm doing it right. I'm doing the right things, the right thing, because they are listening for first time, perhaps, these kind of narratives, no? And automatically they introduce it, or not, or they push you out. No, they are blind. So you can have these two answers, but I think that at the end, it's a play. So it's a play. Sorry, it's a play always. No, to be hacking the institution in a more evident way, in a more evident or conscious artistical practice. No, that probably is what you are doing, Ase. And another way is to trying to be within, inside the institution, to generate new narratives and new ways of. It's very desgastante. I don't know in English. It's very how do you say?
Yeah, I don't know, desgastante. Like it tires you
It's
out
very,
a
yeah,
lot.
it's very
Very
tired.
tiring, maybe.
It's like a resistance practice.
Yeah.
It's like a Tadasana practice. But at the end, I think that in some kind of territories is the way it works. No, I don't know that, or at least that is what I'm trying to do here in the Canary Islands and in Spain. No?
But also, sorry, Jana, go.
Sorry, Atse. Okay, so also how we work with Steam Room, it's also really on that little bit of that principles of hacking of institutions, like maybe in a way of like even regular doing that in our like mechanism of working, but also like working with all these like different institutions of the different countries with the different rules. This takes so much energy and power. So again, we come to the point, okay, we'll have this speculating space that we'll create, speculative space that we'll create, we'll hack the institutions, but this takes so much power and energy that at the end we again will not have a space like for artistism, for artistic work to go to explore these processes. This is like also like this structure that we create, example with Steam Room, that it's like, it's really like, I don't know, it's like influencing on very good way our living, our like let's say networking, our like where we spread ourselves. But at the same moment, I'm like really struggling with that I really want to open this space more for artistic works and practices. But at the same moment, to open this space, I really need to work a lot with institutions and bureaucracy and administrative work. So how this you can, I don't know, to create these structures that are imaginative and working with the artists in like embracing the sphere, the felt, but the same moment like still, I don't know, like leaving the space for the artwork, for the artist to experience the creative work.
Yeah,
Well,
but
sorry, in somehow, if institution is an art form, as Vijana said, probably this struggle or this dealing is an art practice. Somehow it's an art practice.
This is what I wanted to say. One thing.
Yes, and that's okay. We need artists involved in that art practice.
Yeah. That's the thing. One thing is for sure, like from where you speak, Jana, I do understand what you speak, but in the same time, how it comes across, it's very much like understanding your institutionalization of what institutionalization of your wishes that you cannot reach them, but or what exactly you're dealing with. But what I wanted to bring also, like what I wanted to say from that, it's not only for me the hacking of bureaucracy, but maybe like now it came across another thought, maybe it's a little bit trying to escape this a little bit anthropocentric idea of the thing. So understanding a little bit institution without the people, or with the people being changeable variability. So therefore, this is why I focus very much on practices of institution and bureaucracy of institution, because those are kind of the unchangeable as code, as language, as, let's say, as a matrix kind of. And this is where, when I would speak systematically, institution would be for me, because it seems that they're created in such a infrastructure, such a practice, that whoever sits there, even if you would like to implement certain change, it's such a practice that you just reproduce the same what the one before you was reproducing, and the one before you. And this is why it seems to be very difficult once you come in a position of certain representative institution in the culture sector or art or whatever. It's kind of very often that I hear this thing like, yeah, like I came there, but it is so difficult to change the things. It seems that there is no big difference from the previous, let's say, director or the artistic director or the blah, blah, blah. Because it seems that the activities which are put it at practice, and the bureaucracy is the one that kind of, let's say, takes that personality out of you, or takes that status out of you, or emphasize that type of representation. I don't know if you're losing me or if it makes sense. So that's why I'm trying to focus on the system so much, and not.
Maybe just I want to say something before on Javi, what he said, and then I come back to you on system. But the thing that what I think what is very important, what he said, if the institution is an artistic work, then all these administrative processes are part of the artistic practice. But then you can see this artistic practice as a collective artistic practice, and understand all people involved being part of the processes producing the art piece. And I think our labor should be, of course, different. I'm not an artist, I'm a cultural worker, but we are creating this artwork. So therefore, we can exchange many different things. But we should see it as an artistic process, because in the artistic process, you have negotiations, you have dissensus, you have all this, what is kind of possible to bring the artistic work to certain extent of not consensus, even the sensual position, in which we all are being together. So in that sense, I was thinking togetherness, vulnerability, being together, I don't know, interdependence, depending on each other, in understanding the art institution as an art piece or work. This is one thing. The second thing about you and the system, and I think it's the thing about this kind of understanding of this love and hate relation between the system and the ones who is practicing something within the system. It's, I think, as you're thinking about being on a stage and having an audience watching you. So it's like, in the process of watching, also the audience is producing something to be watched, So therefore, I think there is no art piece without someone watching it, and it's produced through the gaze. So this is like kind of combination of different mutual things being together, in the process of doing it. So therefore, I think there is no system that produces, and someone who is outside of the system, so have to come to this system. But it's like, I think I've never worked in a public institution, you know, but I'm, for example, in one board of one institution, and I understand this fragility of the institution itself. But also I think that there is so much power in somehow transfer it and fighting against what is happening, only if you can understand that you're part of this, you know. If not, then it's always a kind of a love and hate relation in a war. So I don't know. This might.
No, yeah, I didn't meant to not be part. I don't imagine being able to be out of the system. This is kind of impossible place for me, or non-existent anyhow. I meant more to this is why I use the terminology practice, like with their practice, with the practices that are established, kind of this is the only capacity that is possible. So maybe what we need to start thinking, and this is why I said from the beginning, I will be most probably using this language and of choreographic approach. When something doesn't work, then I go back to specific change of specific practices. If I would need to get to certain body to experience certain things specific way, or when the audience is watching to get them to certain space of projections or space of imagination of sensation or whatever is there, I need to go to specific procedure of like influencing my practice, changing it, reworking it, figuring out how I could get to certain aimed or wished place to go. So only that type of parallel I'm doing it. And then it came more the think of this kind of trying to exclude the centralization of the human in it. And then I was thinking, what if like more in the procedures of what if the system doesn't want you to be, or what if the institution doesn't want you to be institutionalized? And what if the institution is already, you know, like you said, the piece doesn't exist if the audience doesn't watch it. And I would argue here that's not true, because the piece can exist, the artwork can exist, but while you are in it, and maybe it doesn't need an audience, but it needs people just to be in it.
No, I'm just saying this as a gaze, you know, this is like direction, this is a relation. And the gaze is something which is important as a relation. And this is something what I just kind of referred to.
True.
The interesting thing in what you're saying, you both are saying, is that I think that the perversion in the institution is that I think that never told them that they are creating a work of art. They don't know that they are a work of art. And the consequence of this perversion is that artists, in one point, became the main audience of this work of art, when we should be the creators of this work of art. No? And so it's so interesting, this difference between this reflection about the audience and the art piece, because okay, I agree the institution is an art piece, so who is creating this art piece? We are not the artists who are creating that, and nobody told them that they are creating a work of art. And we are not the creators, we are the audience. So the citizenship, okay, the citizenship are the consumers, no, are the political goals, but only the political goals. And I think that this is the perversion. So we have to claim our place in this part of the,
And even I would go
to
further.
Subvert the roles that were given and that we shouldn't take them. So
yep.
And even I would go further, not only the artists and audience, they're also the producers, the light designers, the costume, like I have a feeling that in the whole mechanism of the production of that, without being an artist or artwork.
The extractive machine, you know, the institution is the extractive machine. So we are all that you say, and at the same time, the audience, because these machines runs in some way for us. We are the only ones who are looking at the institution, not the citizenship.
No, this is super, super inspiring. We can go further, you know, into this speculative imagination. But I think we should round it up, maybe with a proposal to think about some kind of like, yeah, this is kind of I don't know, speculative, subversive critique on something which is given to us, you know. But how to go further? Yeah, I think we just need this space of continuance. And I think your project is kind of an institutional critique in our field, if it's possible to be said.
I mean, I think also like somehow this conversation is already a way of claiming to be the creators or the doers. So yeah.
But for doing that, for example, another example is the UARTE, Centro de Arte, the art center in Pamplona, you know, UARTE?
No.
Well, it's an example of how the artists take the place that this place we are talking about, as a collective, as 3 women that applies for the artistic direction of UARTE, and they win it. They get this direction, but they have to share one only honorary between 3. Sorry, because my English, because I know that it's not well said, but they have to divide this only one sueldo, no, honorary, between 3. So in which way we have to renounce to I don't know, to our power in this sense, to our money in this sense, to our resources in this sense, to get in this way into the institution, to take this place. No? It's an example but it's running, and this place is for me an example of how an art center, an institution, a public institution can work, managed by another kind of sensibility, another kind of critical gaze, but in a place like very, very fluid, where you don't know exactly what is going to happen, or you don't have these rigid bureaucracies, etc.
What that say? You put down the mic.
No,
Shall we end or we continue?
Yeah, I
We
would
shall
say
end?
we could. I would say because we could have other sessions further. It's already exhausted a bit.
Yeah, also, I don't know. Thank you a lot. I enjoy a lot hearing
me as
you
well.
and conversating with
Thank
you.
you.
It's really, really
Thank
nice.
you also.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, everyone.
Like
Yeah,
I could
and
spend
so
evenings like
inspiring.
this. Yeah.
The
And
next
I would,
time, all together in Tenerife, with
Yes.
a
Please.
Yes.
Please.
with a beer in the middle of the Contemporary Art Museum in Tenerife,
Yes.
to lubricate this place and to something different.
Yeah, let's do it together.
Yeah. No, but I would like that we have certain residency a bit more, that we could not exhaust in 1 hour and a half, but a little bit in a couple of days.
Yeah.
Because I have billion questions now and stuff.
Sure.
But brilliant. Next time, Tenerife.
Next time.
Thank
host
you,
you.
Javi. Thank you.
Thanks to you. Nice to meet you, Diana.
Nice to meet you also. Thank you, Steam
So
Room.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
you. I will just turn down the live. So ciao, whoever is there. And I will stop live stream. Ciao.